Introduction. The French Revolution, which spanned from 1789 to the late 1790s and saw the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, stands as a pivotal moment in world history. This transformative period witnessed French citizens undergoing a profound reconfiguration of their political landscape, overthrowing long-standing institutions like the monarchy and the feudal system. The revolution was fueled by a deep discontent with the French aristocracy and King Louis XVI's economic policies, ultimately leading to the execution of both the king and his wife, Marie Antoinette, by guillotine. Despite the descent into violence during the Reign of Terror, the French Revolution played a crucial role in shaping modern democracies by demonstrating the inherent power vested in the collective will of the people. Causes. As the 18th century neared its end, France found itself in a dire financial situation due to its costly involvement in the American Revolution and the extravagant spending of King Louis XVI. The depletion of royal funds was compounded by years of poor harvests, drought, cattle disease, and soaring bread prices, which sparked discontent among both peasants and the urban poor. Frustrated by heavy taxes and a lack of relief from the government, people took to rioting, looting, and striking to express their desperation and resentment. In 1786, Charles Alexander de Calonne, the Comptroller General under Louis XVI, proposed a financial reform plan that aimed to impose a universal land tax, ending the aristocracy's exemption from taxation. Estates General. In an effort to gain backing for the proposed reforms and prevent an uprising among the aristocracy, King Louis XVI called for a gathering of the Estates General, les Etats Généraux, an assembly representing France's clergy, nobility, and middle class. This assembly had not been convened since 1614. The meeting was scheduled for May 5, 1789, and in the interim, representatives from each estate in every region were tasked with creating lists of grievances, cahiers de doléances, to present to the king. Rise of the Third Estate. By the time of the Estates General meeting in 1789, France had undergone significant demographic changes since 1614. The majority of the population, comprising the non-aristocratic middle class known as the Third Estate, now accounted for 98% of the people. However, they could still be outvoted by the other two bodies. As the May 5 meeting approached, the Third Estate began rallying support for equal representation and the elimination of the noble veto. They advocated for a system where voting would be based on individual headcount rather than social status. While all the estates expressed a shared desire for fiscal and judicial reforms, as well as a more representative government, the nobles were particularly reluctant to relinquish the privileges they had long enjoyed under the traditional system. Tennis Court Oath. As the Estates General gathered at Versailles, the focus shifted from its original purpose to a heated debate over the voting process. Tensions escalated, causing animosity between the three orders and even challenging the authority of the king himself. On June 17, as discussions on procedures reached a standstill, the Third Estate decided to convene separately and officially declared themselves the National Assembly. 3 days later, they gathered at an indoor tennis court and took the famous tennis court oath, Serment du Jeu de Paume, pledging not to disband until constitutional reforms were achieved. Soon after, many clergy deputies and 47 progressive nobles joined their cause, and on June 27, King Louis XVI reluctantly recognized the integration of all three orders into the newly formed National Assembly. The Bastille. In June, fear and violence engulfed Paris as rumors of a military coup spread. On July 14, rioters stormed the Bastille, marking the start of the French Revolution. The uprising, known as the Great Fear, led to widespread looting and burning of the homes of the elite. In August, the National Constituent Assembly abolished feudalism, signaling a major shift in the revolution. Declaration of Rights. In late August, the National Constituent Assembly embraced the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen, inspired by Enlightenment thinkers. It outlined democratic principles such as equality, freedom of speech, popular sovereignty, and representative government. However, the Assembly faced challenges in drafting a constitution due to economic difficulties and key decisions regarding the new political landscape. These included electing delegates, determining the clergy's allegiance, and defining the king's authority. On September 3, 1791, France adopted its first written constitution, establishing a constitutional monarchy. The king retained veto power and the ability to appoint ministers. However, influential radicals sought a more republican government and the trial of Louis XVI, expressing discontent with the compromise. French Revolution turns radical. In April 1792, the Legislative Assembly declared war on Austria and Prussia, aiming to combat counter-revolutionary alliances and promote revolutionary ideals through military means. In France, the crisis intensified as radical Jacobins led insurgents to attack the royal residence in Paris. On August 10, 1792, the king was arrested, marking a significant escalation. The following month, amidst violent acts by Parisian insurrectionists against accused counter-revolutionaries, the National Convention replaced the Legislative Assembly. The National Convention abolished the monarchy and established a French Republic. On January 21, 1793, King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine, found guilty of high treason and crimes against the state. 9 months later, Marie Antoinette, his wife, faced the same fate. Reign of Terror. Following the execution of the king, the French Revolution entered its most violent and tumultuous phase due to war with European powers and deep divisions within the National Convention. In June 1793, the Jacobins, a radical faction, took control of the National Convention from the moderate Girondins. The Reign of Terror, a period of 10 months, was unleashed, characterized by mass executions via the guillotine targeting suspected enemies of the revolution. Robespierre, a prominent figure, wielded significant power through the Committee of Public Safety and was responsible for many of the orders. However, he faced his own execution on July 28, 1794, marking a turning point. Thermidorian Reaction. The demise of Robespierre marked the onset of the Thermidorian Reaction, a period characterized by moderation as the French people rebelled against the extreme measures of the Reign of Terror. On August 22, 1795, the National Convention, comprised mostly of surviving Girondins, ratified a new constitution introducing France's first bicameral legislature. The executive authority was entrusted to a 5-member directory appointed by Parliament. Although there were protests from royalists and Jacobins against the new regime, they were swiftly suppressed by the military, led by a young and accomplished general named Napoleon Bonaparte. French Revolution ends, Napoleon's rise. During the 4-year rule of the Directory, numerous challenges plagued their governance, including financial crises, public dissatisfaction, inefficiency, and rampant political corruption. As the late 1790s approached, the directors heavily relied on the military to maintain control, gradually relinquishing their authority to the generals on the battlefield. On November 9, 1799, in response to mounting frustration with the Directory's leadership, Napoleon Bonaparte orchestrated a coup d'état, dismantling the Directory and declaring himself France's first consul. This event marked the conclusion of the French Revolution and the dawn of the Napoleonic era, characterized by France's widespread dominance across much of continental Europe.